Hello, everybody. You'll be joining us to speak about practical tools to automate hackers to improve your security. And I would love to present ourselves for 1 second. My name is Demi Ben-Ari. I'm one of the co-founders and the CTO of Panorays. Coming from the background of engineering, intelligence, etc., I'm also in charge and head of security basically at Panorays and managing our own third-party risk management program. And this is a bit to give you kind of a context about why are we speaking about this subject. And also I let Yarden to present herself and her role also in the company and why she had done a lot in this area also.
Yeah, so thank you, Demi. I'm Yarden Zemach. I've been working at Panorays for the last 2 years as a security software engineer. Before that, I was in the Army, in the Air Force as a security engineer also.
Awesome. So let's elaborate a bit about what Panorays does to give you kind of context about why we're speaking about this subject at all. And we'll start from basically what you'll be hearing about different kinds of supply chain attacks that occurred today. I would say it's in the last like 5 years-ish, had been kind of an emerging issue about different kinds of third-party breaches that occurred and impacted a lot of companies. And we can start with speaking about like FireEye, about SolarWinds that was kind of like echoing in the media, and different kinds of even software supply chain attacks that occurred. And basically every organization today kind of states, and like mostly around like 60% of organizations actually believe that they had a third-party breach in their premise. And these are like kind of out of the ordinary numbers. And by that, what we did and actually created with our SaaS platform is a solution that kind of covers all of the areas that we've mentioned above. Understanding the risk that is imposed by your third parties. We've created an engine that also does an external footprint assessment. And this is kind of the area that we'll be discussing also of continuous red teaming, basically, and trying to understand and unveil the attack surface of any organization on the ongoing and automated manner. And also automating different kinds of security practices like security questionnaires. And by that, creating the cyber posture of any organization in the world today. And this is, again, from our experience and what we've also implemented with different kinds of tools we'll be sharing with you guys. So let's start off with something that is basic, okay? And I know it's kind of like weird to say, but what is cybersecurity? And eventually when we're speaking about cybersecurity, we're speaking about different kinds of safety mechanisms that we put in place. And these memes literally mean all of the security gaps that we might be introducing to any organization that we're interacting with and ourselves also. So basically, security and cybersecurity in general boils down to technology that we might be using and has security vulnerabilities, or maybe technology that we're implementing to protect ourselves from these vulnerabilities. Different kinds of actions that we might want to take or maybe are taking on the day-to-day basis. And what usually practitioners really, really hate, processes, okay? Processes that we're implementing to basically cover ourselves in the best way possible. So what's the solution for that, okay? How we do that on an ongoing basis. So the key of actually having a rapid and comprehensive cyber risk reduction, okay, is automation. And we need to fully automate the processes that we want to implement and also try to understand how we're automating the way that we actually look from the outside. And this is what we will be focusing on. So reconnaissance, but eventually, what are we trying to recon? And this is the most important part to kind of understand that we need to classify our assets. And when I say our, what does our mean? Our mean organizational assets. It might be some kind of digital footprint that our organization is exposing to our world. The human beings, the people, the employees of the company, or maybe even us as individuals that also have different kinds of assets like secrets, secret files, PII, primary emails, etc. And some that are a combination of both, okay? Because these secret files also can be something that the organization holds, right? Financial records, bank account details that might be also ours or maybe even the company's, et cetera, et cetera. So again, if we're speaking about assets, I think you want to speak a bit about what we'd like to also discover.
Yes, so in order to get a full attack surface, we need to find the domain and subdomains of a company, the related IPs, the technologies that they use in order to find a full view of the company, the devices that they use, the email of the personal email and the corporate emails, and of course the social media.
Yeah, the human aspect that we kind of
Yeah.
discussed.
So every asset has a geological location, and it's Demi.
It's kind of spread around the world, like you mean, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, it's spread around different kinds of services because everybody are adopting cloud today, right? And it's not only your IP addresses, it might be IP addresses of your company that you're exposing right now to different kinds of cloud providers. And you can rent them and you can basically have static IPs. And this is, again, where it all gets complicated. Okay. And because of that, when you want to unveil an attack surface in an organization, let's wear the hat of the hacker, you need to understand where you're starting to actually explore from. And most of the times it starts from some kind of primary domain. Okay. I know that as individuals, probably we're using different kinds of like personal email addresses like Gmail, Hotmail, or something like that. But eventually, when you have a corporate address, okay, it starts off with a corporate domain. And from that, we need to start discovery like any hacker would do from the external facing perimeter. Meaning, right now, we want to resolve, like you then mentioned, correlated domains, correlated subdomains, maybe of a company, the IPs resolved, which are super dynamic, like we discussed about the cloud providers, etc., and maybe different kinds of assets of technology that we want to discover. And there are a lot of mechanisms and methods that we would like to also like show you how easy is that to gather information about a company and how hard it is to actually automate that whole process. And doing like discovery, then understanding if these like assets that was discovered are actually affiliated to the company, because this might be also some kind of false positive. And eventually by that, assembling the external digital footprint of any company and doing that continuously.
Yeah. So
So you want to take it?
yeah. So let's talk about the tools. We'll show you several tools that we use. I generally use when searching the web and making really cool hacking stuff. Let's go. Okay, so the first tool is Whois. Whois is a protocol that allows you to get information about purchased domains. So as you can see, for example, for the domain that we searched, we can see when the domain was bought initially, by who, the contact. We can see the IP address that it's connected to, the location of the IP, and even the ASN that is connected to. And I think the most important thing is the expiration date of the domain, when this domain will expire and the owner will no longer hold this domain, which can be really important and beneficial for phishing attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Next one, please.
Yeah.
So reverse Whois, we spoke that Whois protocol is a protocol that helps you get information about purchased domains. So let's take it the other way. If I know that someone bought a domain and I want to see maybe he bought it other ones, and I know the registered name or the email that someone purchased the domain, I can use reverse Whois, for example, to find a full picture of a company and find other domains that are related maybe to the company, that are maybe important for the company and are interesting to me, and also the creation date when they were bought. Next, please. So IP info and host.io. Both are under the same company. IP info and host.io are able to get you a full picture and full information about an asset. It can be an IP, an ASN number or a domain. So for example, here you can see that we took an IP and searched it and found the location of it, the ASN, even the type of ASN that this IP is connected to, and the company. I usually use Host.io, for example, to search for, when searching for a domain, finding the redirects and backlinks for this domain specifically. Again, to see a full picture and to see the whole company that is related to this specific domain. A really cool tool is Have I Been Pwned? And we're searching an email here. You can see if this account was compromised in a data breach. Again, really cool information for you to have. Next. And last but certainly not least, there are many, many more really cool tools, is Showdown. So Showdown is actually a huge search engine for every device that is connected to the web. It can be a webcam and even a remote desktop. When searching, for example, here you can see that we searched the webcam. We got a lot of results for webcams along the web, and you can see you can filter them by a country, by service, organization, and by simply clicking on one, you can log in. It's really important to know that here and in many more tools, the data may not always be super fresh. But still really good, really helpful for you, for all of us, to get really cool data about a domain, a company, and even more.
Yeah, you have also like a free offering and a paid one in which you get more search results, more search abilities, filters, and all sorts of things about monitoring, about assets specifically that you want to pinpoint.
Definitely.
And these tools usually are being like used as a complementary type of reconnaissance and not as a single source of truth. Cool. I'll tell you a bit about more like tools like the Harvester. This is actually a GitHub account that somebody had created, and it's some kind of aggregator across a lot of search engines. And it searches something that starts from, like we said, a primary domain or some kind of affiliate domain that we'd like to search. And it does some kind of spider web across the web. And you can also do that as a plugin type of infrastructure that you also enter different kinds of usernames in different search engines like MSN, etc. And basically by that, creating a dump of all the information that is like available out there in open source intelligence tools. And there are different kinds of tools like Spiderfoot also that gives you these types of abilities. And of course, all of these things can be also automated because it's a script. It's basically something that you can run either on your laptop or you can wrap it up as a Docker container and run it somewhere in the cloud. Okay, but take that into account that these things are kind of intrusive sometimes. Okay, it really depends whatever you plug into that. And in some areas in the world, port mapping and different kinds of abilities that you might want to trigger with the Harvester are not legal. So you have to take that into account when you're doing some kind of reconnaissance phase, whatever is like, I would say white hat, whatever is gray, and whatever is basically black hat. So an understanding of a full attack surface of any organization can be pretty hard. And eventually you need to kind of classify that also to different kinds of aspects. And starting, and we spoke about cyber defense, okay? Doing these reconnaissance activities on your company, this is totally legit. And even doing the most intrusive things, you would rather actually do that. You're doing that when you're doing penetration testing usually, and you can do that automated if you're using different kinds of cloud providers, because eventually they're giving you also tools to do these exploration phases. But the thing is that the most like beneficial outcome for you will be whatever you're exposing as your attack surface. Because think of it that no matter how many safety mechanisms you put on your infrastructure, eventually somebody might actually penetrate that from the inside even. A developer that does some kind of change in your infrastructure without noticing that they're like exposing the firewall or something like that. And eventually you end up with a piece of infrastructure that is exposed to the world. And this is how databases come to be as something that is externally faced to your perimeter, rather than actually something that is supposed to be under a lot of layers of protection, and nobody is supposed to actually reveal that. And we can see these things that are emerging out of any company's infrastructure by mistake most of the times. So this is on the defense side of it. But it's not the only scope that you would like to also like see, because eventually, sometimes you would like to at least do the first step of the attacker. Because right now, assuming that somebody will target your supply chain, like we said. So an understanding and getting visibility on your third-party risk is also sometimes important, of looking on other entities like the attacker and doing the first reconnaissance phase of mapping out the infrastructure, because eventually these are the pieces of connection that you will be doing to all of your third parties. And these third parties are first connected to your network, okay? Second, they're processing your information. And even sometimes the different kinds of service providers that have credentials to your organization. So you also need to take the attacker's role on yourself and on your third parties, because eventually this is what assembles your attack surface. And the most important part, it's not a one-off. Like you're doing an annual PT, right? Penetration testing exercise. And eventually you're doing something that lasts for, I don't know, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe even 1 month. But eventually they give you a report that is correct on a single point in time. And eventually you have to automate the process to actually do that continuously, 24/7, and create some kind of reconnaissance mechanism. So reconnaissance, what do we do there? Like Yarden had mentioned, we have to do a lot of mapping, a lot of gathering information and understanding some kind of shell and the attack surface of the organization. And of course, like she said, a lot of the data might be actually stale, not fresh, okay? It might be outdated. It might be cached even in different kinds of areas that you're collecting the information. And to actually get a proper and correct attack surface, you have to weight everything. And of course, scopes, you have to loop that continuously. Do that, monitor yourself with internal tools and external tools. We only touched literally the tip of the iceberg with the type of tools that you can run. There are things that are much more intrusive, much more elaborate, and go really into depth. But this is kind of to create the understanding, first of all, how easy is that to gather information, but how hard it is to actually create an automated solution that does that and eventually brings up the correct attack surface of an organization for you to be able to pinpoint which are the security gaps that you want to close. So eventually, gathering enough in every period of time is super important because it takes an effort. Okay, we don't have 500 people doing that manually every day. So eventually creating different kinds of mechanisms to automate the process are a key success factor to actually getting a really comprehensive solution in place to be able to cover your security gaps. And this is exactly what Yarden's team is doing. They're creating an automated solution that actually does that. And it's not a one-off. It's not that we've succeeded to create that attack surface, because eventually you have to do that in a continuous effort to ever refine this type of solution. And because a lot of technologies emerge, you need to be as current with the market as possible. So eventually you have to create that kind of mechanism, and you have to create a reason to believe for the entity to actually understand that this is the correct attack surface, and by that reducing the risk. So probably you would have some questions, but we don't have much time around these sessions. So we'd love to also get as many questions as possible also from the audience and answer them even offline. So you can gladly contact us also on different kinds of social media mechanisms, if it's Facebook, LinkedIn, or even our email addresses, yarden@panraise.com or demi@panraise.com. So Yarden, I would like to thank you also for your continuous job during the day-to-day and also your continuous learning and from sharing your experience.
Thank you.
I would like to thank the audience also for joining, and please feel free to contact us.
Yeah.
Thank you.